up, guys? Check this out. I just made a big purchase that I've been wanting to make for a long time, and I'm really excited about it. Anyways, first things first, welcome back to Diesel Creek. My name's Matt. Behind me, my new to me, Takeuchi TL240 tracked skid steer. Technically called a compact track loader, but nah. Let's not get bogged down in technical terms right now. So if you've been following me along on the channel for any amount of time, you'll probably remember I've been to several auctions and done a lot of talking about wanting to get a track machine versus the steel tracks on the Bobcat. And just real quickly, because I know I always get questions every time this thing's in a video. The steel tracks over the tires, if you have a tire machine and you want to work the dirt, those things are amazing. They make that machine usable when otherwise the thing would just be sitting there spinning its wheels. I love those tracks. Mine are Grouser brand. I've had them on there almost 1,000 hours with pretty much zero problems. I think I broke one bolt one time. They're a little noisy, and that's it. I mean, that's the only con that I really have to them. They mark up paved surfaces a little bit, but anyways, I've done videos where I go kind of in depth on those tracks. I just want to say that they are awesome and they are definitely worth the money if you have a rubber tired machine. So the Bobcat, this is the first machine that I ever bought. This is my first piece of heavy equipment. This is a 2003 model S185, and it weighs somewhere in the neighborhood of 7,000 pounds. Has a 43 horsepower Kubota engine in it, and it's got closing in. It's rated about 3,000 hours. The new machine here, whole different animal, not just because of the tracks. It also weighs quite a bit more. This guy comes in at 10,600 pounds and has an 82 horse Yanmar diesel in it. It also has the deluxe accommodations. It has an enclosed cab with heat and air conditioning, which is what I decided I was going to splurge on. If I was going to buy a machine, I was going to make it one that I could stand to sit in for 10 or 12 hot hours of the day. The other feature of this machine that I really love is that this thing has power quick attach. So from sitting in the cab, you just click the little switch down there and these things open up, the pins come out of the bucket, and you can switch attachments without ever leaving the seat. The Bobcat has the old school levers that you got to lift up and then you can disconnect from your implement. I do love the Bobcat. It's been a really good machine for me. I've definitely gotten every penny out of this machine that I have put into it and then some. It's been a very dependable machine. As I said briefly there, the tracks are a godsend if you're trying to move dirt and grade with a rubber track machine or with a rubber tire machine, but they still are just no substitute for having a real track undercarriage. So the big gamble, like the title said, I spent $28,600 without ever seeing this machine. I saw pictures of it, but I never got to come up and touch it, look it over, actually see it in person. It was about 5 hours away from me on the other side of Pennsylvania, and I'll tell you exactly what sold it for me. Cosmetically, it looks like it's in pretty good shape on the outside and the inside. The seat isn't all torn up or anything. The screen isn't busted out of it. It's not full of dirt. It is a little dusty, but that's not bad. Glass is all intact and everything. But this guy right here, if you look at skid steers, used machines, if you look at compact track loaders, skid steers, Bobcats, whatever you want to call them, the rear doors here take a beating. And it seems like the newer machines, they keep making them even more flimsy and even more flimsy. And the only imperfection I found on this back door is this slight wave right here that somebody backed into something at some point and got that little wave to that fin. But I have seen these doors completely smashed with all these fins bent up and mangled, and you can see where people have heated them up and bent them back into place and everything. And you can tell that those machines have just been really neglected. Whereas this one, I really can't see any serious signs of neglect. Even like this area right in here, on a lot of these machines, the paint's wore off clear up to here, and you know, you can see that it's had a lot of contact with dirt or trees or demo debris or whatever they were working in. So the other thing that really sold me on this machine was the guy's honesty that was selling it. Seemed like a really nice guy. He just kind of sells some used machines on the side. I guess he picks them up at auctions and flips them. So he told me everything he knew about this machine to the best of his knowledge. And you can say, sure, you know, anybody could say that they're telling you that. But I decided to take this guy's word for it because I spoke to him on the phone about a week ago and told him I was interested in the machine and asked him all the typical questions. And then I was talking about driving out there, but I couldn't do it for a few days. He said, I tell you what, if you can wait a week, I'm going to another auction that's right near you. I can bring that machine out here and deliver it to you, and that'll help you out on the price too, because the guy didn't want to wiggle as much as I wanted to wiggle, but I can't blame him. It's a tough buy right now, buying machinery. All the prices have been through the roof. But anyways, this guy was willing to bring this machine 5 hours based on the fact that he was telling the truth, because I told him, if this thing shows up here and it's different from as you described or the pictures show it, I'm not giving you the money. He said, that's fair enough. He said, it's exactly as I'm telling you it is. And sure enough, when it showed up here earlier on the trailer, it was exactly as he described. Everything functions, everything works, best that I've seen so far. And yeah, only thing I didn't get to do, he was kind of in a hurry, so I didn't get to go through all the service stuff like the air filter and the oils and all that stuff. He assures me that they're up to the levels, but probably doesn't need a service. And the tracks, now this is not anything that he didn't disclose to me. I could clearly see in the pictures, and he also warned me, these tracks are in pretty sad shape. They have a fair amount of tread left on them, but they have lots of these cuts like this. You see that deep slice through that track there? Like that one. You can really see that these things have been run on some sharp material, probably rock or brick or demo debris or something like that. So these tracks, probably not long for the world, but they should last me, I'd say, at least till the end of the year. Hopefully these tracks last me a while anyways though, and I can get at least the season out of them, maybe part of next season. I mean, there's no reason not to run these things until they die. They usually break at some point. All the pins and bushings in the front end, I think, are fairly tight. You know, the 2 seconds I ran it before he left, I shook it around a little bit and kind of did the pressure test on the pins and bushings, and everything seemed fairly tight. The lights work, air conditioning works. It's pretty good. Also, not only are the tracks worn, but the sprockets are also pretty darn worn. A new sprocket here doesn't have nearly this pocket on it. It's a lot shallower and a tighter throat to the sprocket. Let's open up the back door here and I'll show you the big reason why I went with this machine versus a much newer machine. You see this beauty right here? That'd be the muffler. You know what isn't right here? Some big stupid emission system that causes all kinds of grief. If you don't know what I'm talking about, modern diesel engines are all required, over a certain horsepower that is, to come with either a diesel particulate filter or a DEF, which is diesel exhaust fluid, emission system on them. And while they are getting better every year, it seems, they still cause all kinds of nightmares with these machines. And I'd say that I'm throwing a number out there, but I'm going to say at least 60 to 70% of breakdowns on modern equipment is either electronic or emissions related. So I was happy to get an older machine that is still fundamentally the same as a newer machine, but has less complicated features on it to go wrong. Because with these modern electronics and emission systems that they put in a lot of these machines, you have to have the dealer computers to plug into it and do anything with it if you have a problem. So another thing that really sold me about this machine, it's a little hard to see right now. I was playing around in a little bit of the dirt as I brought it down the driveway. The cutting edge and the bucket in general is in super good shape. The cutting edge looks like it's either been replaced or flipped. I haven't looked at the bottom side of the bucket to see if the other side of the edge is worn. The step on the bucket, though usually those things are bent, and it does have a slight bend here, but I mean, you're usually like mangled, and this one's in pretty good shape, as well as the step getting into the machine here. I've seen these things all bent and mangled, and it looks really nice and straight as well. So it is my hope with this bigger machine that I'm going to be able to A, have a lot more lifting capacity, B, have a lot faster grading capacity, C, be able to sit my butt in some AC and suck up some cooler air when, if I'm running this thing, I'm over here in the sweat box. This machine has a heat, and I do have the cabin closure for it, but I have all the glass out for the summertime because it is just brutal inside of this thing if you don't have it wide open. It's pretty brutal no matter what. Also, for a giant convenience factor, finally having 2 skid steers is going to leave me the ability to have this machine primarily stay here at the farm and take that one out on jobs, and I'll have this one always here to load and unload attachments or other various things, because it seems like it never fails. The moment I would take that machine out to a job, I would need it back here to unload or load something, and I'd be having to use like the excavator when I'd really need pallet forks or whatever. Even better was when the excavator was on a job too, and then I'd wind up using my crane truck or some other stupid contraption to try to unload something heavy. So this thing right here is not only a radiator, it is also a hydraulic cooler. I don't know where the separation is, maybe, yeah, I can't tell. But anyway, half of this unit should be hydraulic cooler, half of it should be radiator or something like that. And you can see, probably from pressure washing, I'm guessing, somebody has bent and mangled the fins over. Not too bad though. Like I said, I was playing with it a little bit as I brought it down the driveway here, and it didn't heat up or anything. It was running nice and cool. Our degas bottle for our antifreeze looks decent. It's within range. It's between low and high. Is this thing cooled off enough yet? I can open the cap. Seems like it. Nope. We're gonna leave that shut right now. But it's got pressure and it's got antifreeze because it just came out there. Let's pull our dipstick here and see if we can check the oil. How do you do it on this thing? So the air filter pivots up like so, giving you access to your dipstick. Okay, can you guys see that? It's actually pretty much perfect. It's right there at the top of range. Like I said, it is pretty dark, so we're definitely going to do a service on it here before we start running it. Go ahead and pull this air filter, see what it looks like. Ugh. Well, that doesn't look as good as I would hope. Ugh. Now, I've seen worse, plenty worse, but it is definitely dirty. Definitely needs at least blown out, but I'll probably just go ahead and replace it. You can see the inside, the paper element there looks nice and clean still, so that's good. It means the element is not compromised. It's not letting dirt through. Go ahead and pull the inner filter here. Look at that. Okay, yeah, the inner filter looks really nice and clean too, so no worries there. Now, the hydraulic reservoir on this machine is built into the side of the frame over here, and I knew there had to be a sight glass somewhere, but I've been looking around here for like 10 minutes and I finally just found it tucked up underneath this hose. And the good news is, after I found it, I see that it's looks like it's right where it needs to be. It's actually at the upper of the range, which is great, and the fluid looks nice and clean, so no worries there. Anyways, since I knew this machine was coming, I went ahead and had all the filters ordered in for it, so we should have everything we need to go ahead and do a service on this thing. So let's get to that. So something else I just noticed here on this machine is it's got like one of these little inline clickety pumps down here, and I can't tell for the life of me if that is a factory thing or if somebody has added that later. So if you guys are Takeuchi people, let me know in the comments down below. It's bolted up there, and that looks pretty proper, so maybe that is factory. But it's definitely got these, oh, I just broke the wire. Oh no. No, that's something else to fix. It's got these stupid little splice clamps here, so I don't think that's factory. That's definitely not factory. As evidenced by me looking for the hydraulic level for 10 minutes. I don't know where the drain is for the oil on this thing or anything. So you can take these two bolts out and the cooler will swing out of the way for you here. So we'll do that and then maybe we can find the oil drain. Well, I think this is the first thing I found about this machine that I like, that I do not like, and I prefer on the Bobcat. The oil drain here, best I can tell, is down on this side of the oil pan. I don't even know if I can get the camera in there for you guys to see it. Like, there's no way to get to it from the back of the machine here. You have to go underneath there. And there's a small access panel right there with two bolts on it. And we're gonna have to drop that, and then you should be able to reach up in there and crack the drain bolt loose. Now, the reason I don't like that is because it means you gotta crawl underneath the machine. The Bobcat has a little drain hose that comes right back here. It's got a little valve on the end of it, and all you do is flop the hose out here into your pan and open the little valve, and the oil just drains right out of the motor. No trouble at all. Well, I just grabbed some old rough cut planking I had laying around here and built me a little service pit real quick. Should make it a lot easier to get underneath there and do what I need to do. Getting up on there is a little sketchy. Pretty smooth. One thing that's something to get used to on this machine versus the Bobcat is having a real tracked undercarriage means that when you are cresting over a point like that, like we just did here, that you will break over at some point and slam down if you're going too fast. The tracks on the rubber tire machine don't have that sharp edge because there's no flat bottom, so you just kind of roll right up and over stuff like this, which in a way is a nice thing about the tracks, but the flat bottom is what is really nice for grading things off. So it's a trade-off, but I'll take it. Yeah, look at all this dirt in here. Good golly. All right, so I don't know, Takeuchi's trying to redeem themselves. They got some sort of thumb screw down here. I can't imagine. It's not already dripping oil, so I don't think it's gonna. There's gotta be something behind this thing. Yeah, what in the world is that thing? Now I have no idea what that port is. I've never actually seen one like that. Yeah, what in the world? It's always something. Learning curve with a new machine. How in the world are you supposed to get the oil out? Well, the next day, and $36 later, I got the special little hose here that's supposed to go on that plug underneath Takeuchi and let the oil drain. Now, this is kind of a nice convenient system if you know about it and if you have one of these fancy special hoses. Otherwise, it's kind of a pain in the butt. But yeah, $36 for this little piece of hose and this special little adapter here that allows that drain plug to flow, I guess. But I was pretty perplexed by it. I sent my buddy over at Elite Earthworks a message and I was like, how the heck do you drain the oil out of these machines? And he said, oh, you need one of these things. Ugh. Another positive thing I will say about having this special hose thing here to go on here is it should make it a relatively low to no mess deal here to change the oil. if I can get the special little tool started. There we go. Let the oil flow. So of course, while the engine oil was draining, I started probing around in here for the oil filter, and I'm looking all over. I must have spent 20 minutes looking every little nook and cranny around this engine compartment. I can't find it anywhere. Get desperate and lift the cab up on it. Oh, and there's another story. To pick this cab up is probably 300 or 400 pounds. I mean, it is insanely heavy, and those little gas shocks on either side are plumb necessary to pick it up by yourself. And apparently those ones are no good, because they do not offer any assistance whatsoever in picking this cab up. I actually had to use the Bobcat with the forks and gently lift the cab up at least like halfway so that I could kind of get under it and shove it up and over center and then engage the locking pin. That sucked. But anywho, I told you all that just to tell you this. The oil filter is actually located on the back of the engine underneath the cab. So yeah, that's kind of inconvenient for a field service, but you can do it. I mean, if I'd have known where to look and everything and planned on doing this, wouldn't have been so bad. But first time changing the oil in this machine, that's kind of annoying. And also, to get the cab to lift, you got to remove 4 bolts, 2 on each side. These 2 fairly easy to get to. These 2, because of your gauge cluster here, kind of a pain. I will say this for it though, now that the cab is up in the air, there's plenty of room in here to work on just about anything. And you can also come up from underneath, because there's several more belly plates on this thing that you can remove and gain access to the underside of things. So it does look fairly accessible to work on, say lines or anything. If you have something blow, you should be able to get to it pretty easy. Anyways, let's spin this oil filter off here and slap the new one on. Well, it's always something. The filter that's on this machine is a 1344, and the one that they gave me is a 1334. Now, I called down there to confirm that it was just a capacity difference, because this one's a bit shorter, and they said the gasket's actually a bit different size. The filtering is still both a 21 micron, but you know what? This one's on here. It's not leaking. There's nothing wrong with it. This one is just a hair different, and although it is what their computer says it calls for, we're going to go down and swap them out, because don't rock the boat. You know what I mean? Well, back from town with the correct oil filter here. Yeah, who didn't see this being a mess? Yeah, that oil was pretty darn black. This old dirty nasty air filter out of here. Ugh. I'm gonna slide in a nice new one. There we go. Feel a lot better about that. This fuel filter is kind of a pain to get to. Ugh. Man, really had to bear paw that thing off of there. Good Lord. They put that thing on way too tight. Alrighty. Alright, got a nice new filter here. Anyways, I backed the filter off a bit there, so it should be able to bleed around the edge. And we'll go ahead and turn the key on so it clickety-clackies and fills up that fuel. That was quick. Well, we're ready to add the oil back in now, and the oil fill plug isn't that hard to get to. Oh, I had that sucker tight. Anyway, not too hard to get to. It's right on top of the engine here. But the problem is this thing. You got this little hood here, and what, maybe 6 or 8 inches of clearance above the oil fill plug. So, I mean, I buy everything in 5-gallon buckets. There's no way you're gonna dump that in there. So what I think I can do, I just unbolt the shock, probably down the bottom here actually, And I hope this hood will fold up and out of the way and give me the clearance I need for a funnel and a bucket. Well, I had to get a bit creative with the funnels here, but I think I got this figured out. What a pain. This would be a really excellent use for one of those bucket pumps or a little battery operated transfer pump. Neither of which I have handy. Well, I guess that about wraps up our service. Normally, if this was a field service or something, I'd be looking at the radiator, making sure it doesn't need blown out or anything, but everything looks good, clean, ready to go. So I guess we'll shut everything up here and take this thing out in the dirt and see what it can do. Of course, as soon as I closed this thing after finishing the oil change, that little shock decided to spray oil everywhere. So now we've got no hood shock. That means every single shock on this machine, look at it, it just snapped clean off. What the heck? Maybe I put it on a bind over tightening it or something. What a bunch of crap. Anyways, every single shock on the machine now needs replaced. The two that lift the cab up, the two that lift the window up, they're pretty weak. And now this one. I cranked this thing up right after I changed the fuel filter to get the air pocket out, and I cranked it maybe a hair longer than it normally does, and I heard the starter make a weird sound as it started up. Now the starter is grinding and doesn't want to spin the engine. Oh, I hope I didn't get burned on this thing. Well guys, looks like it's time to pull a starter. That'll be fun. Well, I can't say it's going to be a picnic, but it could have been worse. Starter lives right down in here, and I can get to the bolts fairly easy. It's just hard to see what you're doing. I can't really keep you guys in there to let you see and me work at the same time, so hope you enjoy the time lapse. Well then, there's the starter. I think I see the problem. How about you guys, huh? Oh, that's irritating. Now, I was able to find one of these bolts, and one of them's still in there. That leaves two unaccounted for that have to be down in the bell housing somewhere. I'll try to fish them out with a magnet, but I don't see them causing any problems for us. And the worst part about it is the starter's probably actually okay. I mean, it cranked over fine, but the Bendix is now all chewed up because of reasons. Actually, you can see a little piece of the casting here broken out, so those screws would probably never really hold right again. And it's got metal shavings all down inside of it, so that's great. So I just finished pulling the starter apart here, and what I can see by looking at it is that there's a lot of metal shaving down inside of there, worked into the grease. So that means that this has been occurring slowly for quite a while, and it just decided to show its head today. Now, I can't fault the guy that sold it to me because I have started the machine probably 20-30 times just in the making of this video and playing around a little bit before I even started the camera up. And the starter sounded just fine. I cranked up fine, didn't make any weird noises, nothing like that. So it's just a shame that this happened to be the moment it decides to rear its ugly little head. I think I'm going to clean all the grease out of here and attempt to reassemble it, because although this little piece is broken here and so is this little piece, I think it'd go back together and be okay. I don't see any reason that any of this would cause a problem. Like that gouge right there, that really shouldn't do anything. I can clean up the mold over parts of the teeth there with a file, and there's still plenty of meat there to engage the flywheel, so we might be able to fix this for nothing. Well, I cleaned the starter out real good. I just put fresh grease all over it, and with this thing here, I decked it down as best I could with the a file, so it's pretty nice again. That little bit of ground spot on the edge there, I really don't think it's going to hurt anything nor affect anything. I got new bolts to go in here, and we are going to Loctite those this time so that we don't lose them down into there again. And like this hole right here, though it's messed up at the beginning, that little piece is broken out of it, it's tapped way deeper than the old bolts went, so I got one long bolt to go down in this one. Should be still holding with plenty of thread there. All right, well, it's back together. Hopefully it holds up. All right, starter's back in. Moment of truth, will it start? That is a good sound to hear. Thank goodness. I did call about a new one. They were $280, so I'm glad I was able to fix that. This thing is back in the game, full service, ready to go. Let's take this thing out and do some work with it. All right, the new machine should be capable of lifting a lot more weight than the old Bobcat. This is my 91 Ford Ranger. It was my first truck on the road. There's several videos about this truck. I've talked about it a lot, but it's time for it to go. It's look at it. It's broken in half. The floor is completely rotted out of it. The cab's junk. The engine won't run. It's just a mess. So I'm sick of looking at it. It's scrap. I'm gonna see if the Takeuchi will pick this thing up and set it on the trailer over there. game plan is here. Buddy wants to take out this little parking pad and make it grass, so let's get the skid steer and scrape this stuff out of here.
Yeah, you're probably in the softest spot here.
What happened? Just goes to show you the best stuff always happens when the camera is not rolling. I was just playing around here trying to dry out this wet spot, and of course that's when the track decided to take a little stroll on its own. And yeah, we're in a really wet spot. It's really squishy in there. You stand in one place for a second, you got 5 pounds of mud caked to your shoes. So this is going to be fun. Well, I think that turned into a pretty disappointing evening. I think you guys got to see a couple of my buddies showed up as I was messing with this thing. They said, oh, we'll give you a hand putting it on there, which I sure wasn't going to complain about, but I slung the track out of the way here, and then I started looking at it, and this was what was on the bottom here before I removed it completely from the machine. So I couldn't see the reason that this track popped off, but you can easily see it right now. She split. This is broken clean through here. I don't want to jam my finger in here for fear of getting poked by something, but yeah, that's the track is broken. It's no bueno. So that was a real bummer. Anyways, you guys know when I introduced this machine, I said the tracks were in rough shape, but I figured they'd last me a while yet, and unfortunately they did not. So I just went ahead and ordered up a new set. Also, as you can see, these sprockets are pretty darn worn, so I went ahead and ordered a set of those as well. So here we are. I just got back from the Komatsu/Takeuchi dealership, and nearly $4,000 later we've got 2 new tracks, 2 new sprockets. The other one's down inside the tracks, but anyway, that's what the sprocket's supposed to look like. Let's go ahead and work on getting these off the truck and installed on the machine. Well, I'm going to start by swapping out this sprocket here. I'm hoping I don't have to, but it almost looks like I'm going to have to drop this rear idler to get the sprocket off. But maybe I can pull it out and turn it and finagle. We'll see. No, I need an extension. Whew, it is miserable out here today. Not only is it hot and humid, but there is absolutely zero breeze, not even a hint of a breeze. Yep. Looks like my suspicions were founded. Gonna have to drop this idler, which doesn't look like too big a deal. It should be just 4 bolts and it should fall off. And there we go. Garbage. Gotta make sure this flange that we bolt the sprocket to is nice and clean, otherwise the sprocket may not seat properly and cause it to come loose while we're operating it, which could be very bad, because if the sprocket were to come loose what it's going to do is egg shape all these bolt holes, and that flange is made into the final drive here. So if you mess that up, that's going to be very expensive. You're probably going to end up having to replace the whole final drive. Would be the cheapest option. You could take it to a machine shop and get it fixed up, but I think that you'd find that the cost of doing that would be nearly as much or more than a final drive, so better off to just get a new final. Anyway, that's nice and clean. Sprocket's brand new, so that's nice and clean. And there we go. And I'm also going to put some red Loctite on all these bolts for that very same reason, that we do not want them to come loose. Well, I really hate to do it because it's going to make it harder for you guys to hear me, but I'm drenched and it's not even 10:30 yet. Let's finish getting this thing put back together. There's AC inside of this thing. That's my goal. Get this put back together so I can run it and sit in the AC. Okay, got the new sprocket all bolted on there, looks good. Got the idler mounted up again. Now we are going to go ahead and release the tension on the front idler and shove it back in so that we have plenty of slack to get our new track on. And if you don't know how this is done, what we do is we take this cover off, and there should be a grease fitting behind here. And basically we just loosen that fitting up and then shove against the idler, and it'll push a whole bunch of grease out of a cylinder in there, and that cylinder is what keeps tension on this thing. Yep, see all that? It's usually a mess. This one's not too bad. Anyway, let's crack this loose and watch the grease fly. Good. It's on everywhere. All we got to do now is reinstall the grease fitting in here and pump these tracks up. Man, if you don't have an electric grease gun and you have to do this, you'll want to go buy an electric grease gun. Probably going to take a whole tube at least. And to sit there and keep pumping, that's the way to go. Okay, according to the book for the Takeuchis, the gap between the track and the roller when it's in this position should be between 15 and 30 millimeters. So we're right on the money, we're right in that ballpark. I think we're good. Go ahead and bolt that cover plate up on there and we'll work on the other side. All right, I put this thing in a better position where I got more room to put the other track on there. So we're gonna go ahead and pop this guy off. You can see this track is not long for the world. It's gonna do the exact same thing the other track did, which is a shame because there is plenty of tread life left in these, but that's just the way this cookie's gonna crumble. Anyways, let's see if we can't NASCAR pit crew this side, huh? And get this done in under 30 seconds for you guys. And time! I don't know how long it took, but it probably only took about 20-30 seconds for you guys. Really didn't take that long for me. That was pretty slick. Not bad for the one-man band. Let's get this thing dropped down and zip it around on some brand new tracks and see what that feels like. Responsive now because there's less slot between the chain and the sprocket. So it's occurred to me that a lot of you probably don't know how to run one of these machines, so I figured since we're doing the whole tour of this thing, I'll go ahead and show you how this thing works. So here is the layout. This left joystick is all of your drive functions. This is the left and right track. That's reverse, forward, steer to the left, steer to the right. On this handle you have hydraulic, so like my claw, that'll open and close the claw or run the brush mower. One of these, this one's for like a hammer, and I'm not sure what B is. I don't know. And then on the back here there's a trigger on the back of the joystick, and that takes you in and out of second gear. On the right side here we have our boom control. This is boom up, boom down, curl towards you, dump. Down here is your throttle. This is the float control. This will put the bucket into float mode, and that's your horn. And the trigger on this side, I don't know what it does, to be honest. Down here we have our throttle, so you pull that thing back and it'll set the throttle at a desired idle. But there is also a throttle pedal down on the floor, which is primarily what I gravitate towards. Got a radio. The radio is messed up in here. I think it works, but the screen is so messed up that you can't tell what you're doing with it. So I don't listen to the radio in a machine typically anyway. Down lower here we have headlights, it's front lights, those are rear lights. I guess that warning light's probably like a check engine light maybe, I'm not positive on that one. On this side we have our windshield wiper control, and these two buttons here are for our auxiliary hydraulics. As you can see, two-way flow and a detent, so that means like if you would push the button it would hold the auxiliary on. Down here is the unlock for our quick coupler for the bucket, so if you want to drop the bucket you just hit unlock, it'll unlock it, drop the bucket, pick the new bucket up or new attachment up, hit the lock button, slam bam, thank you ma'am, you're hooked up. Heat and air conditioning in this machine, which is nice. And I think that's just about it. So you put your lap bar down, hit the key, pick the bucket up, and we're going. Well guys, I guess that about wraps up this video. Overall, even though we've had some minor setbacks, some expensive minor setbacks, I am very happy with this purchase. The machine runs excellent, performs excellent, and I have yet to see any major issues. Knock on wood, please God, knock on wood. But now that the tracks are sorted out, I really shouldn't have to worry about that for a long time, and we should be ready to go to work. All the pins and bushings are tight, the AC functions. There's some minor things I want to fix, like the gas shocks on the door, the window, and the trunk, or I guess hood, I don't know what you call that. But aside from that, she's work ready, and I'm not upset with the guy that I bought this from in the least bit, because I knew what I was getting into and he was as honest as he could be with me about it. Anyways, let me know down in the comments what you guys think about this purchase. If you think I overspent, if you think I got a good deal, let me know down there. So we're going to be seeing this thing in a lot of future videos. I have the brush cutter that is going to run so much better on this bigger machine. Of course, I have all kind of different stuff we can do with this machine, but its primary function is going to be grading and moving dirt and rock. So it is excellent at that. Also, down in the comments, let me know if you guys have any experience with these machines. Are they any good? Do you think that they perform well? Do you think they hold up well compared to other brands? I've run pretty much every brand out there, and these ones might not have the most creature comforts, but I find that they have been the most reliable in the long term. So let me know what you guys think down below. Anyways, that's going to do it for me in the new Takeuchi TL240. If you guys liked the video, don't forget to give it a big old thumbs up. Really helps the channel out and doesn't cost you a thing. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe so you can see this thing and all my other equipment and some upcoming videos. Got lots of cool stuff coming all the time, so I'll see you then. Thanks for watching. Later. Oh, don't forget, there's always Diesel Creek merchandise available over at the Diesel Creek store at dieselcreek.com. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Later.